Excellent. Tech issues. Welcome to this brief chat about pain. There's so much I could talk about. Like, so much I could talk about. But considering that you're here, you've made the first big step, which is amazing because really, when we're in pain, day in and day out, we're constantly looking for what is causing that tissue damage. Once we can open our minds to look beyond that idea of tissue damage and that there's more to the story, it's a huge step. We, as you know, as society, we've built up this idea that our pain is tissue based. So, welcome. And that's my brief, hello. Anyways, my name is Amber, and I have been dealing with my own back pain for over 10 years now. And it took me a long time to get where I was actually understanding what I needed to. And I always thank a good friend of mine, Laura, because she's the one who introduced me to Explain Pain. I was willing to look at anything. As you know, you've probably Googled tons of different things, seen tons of exercises, many different programs, and some of them might work for you. Like, if there's something that you think you can connect with and do it, hands down. But when we're looking at persistent, daily, exhausting, long-term pain, we need to look at the bigger picture. And when I was in that situation with my back pain, 2 little kids, sleep deprivation, still wanting to be active, and I got to the point where I had to give up skiing, which is like a big thing for me. I tried to do all these other things, physio. It was at the point where I'd go to a physio class or a physio session. It would take me about 10 minutes to put my shoes on. I should have gotten slip-on shoes. But anyway, I'd go to my car, sit in the seat, and I couldn't reach for the car door because I literally could not be off perpendicular. And it doesn't make sense to me why, if I walked in and wasn't that bad, by the time I walk out, I'm even worse. It didn't make any sense to me at all. So I started reading Explain Pain. I started learning about how we need to look at this bigger picture. And the biggest thing with Explain Pain is how you think determines your pain levels. The amount of danger you perceive contributes to your pain levels. And when you're in pain every dang day, you can't not think that it's danger, right? That it needs to be fixed. So within that, with that idea that there's thought processes that contribute to pain, we need to look at that. We can't just think our tissues need to be fixed in order for us to have no pain. And trust me, I fully understand how you want to wake up tomorrow and have zero pain. Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you that the pain doesn't fully go away, okay? There will be brief episodes. I always kind of equate it to a squiggly line. The squiggly line out of pain does not go from high-end pain here all the way down to no pain. Doesn't do that. You go from here, sometimes you drop down rapidly, which feels great, and then you're like, yeah, this is good. I'm doing all the work. I feel great. And then that, it goes up. And then you go backwards. And then you drop down again. And then you go, and you're like, oh, this is good. And then you go back up. And you're like, no. And every time there's that repeat of that pain, you freak out. And you start thinking, no, I'm never getting rid of this. And that negative talk happens again. So I want to kind of explain why that happens. Like, what is it? Yes, we, take on more than we should, but That's not tissue damage. Like, we know if we slip on the ice and break our ankle, that's tissue damage. If we lift something heavy that's more than we're used to lifting and something tweaks, that's tissue damage. If we, you know, go shovel the snow and we're not used to shoveling that much snow, our back's going to get sore. But is it tissue damage? Is it overload? Is it just the adaptability? So now we're starting to get into a gray area. So you can kind of imagine this when you touch a hot stove, okay? You touch a hot stove, your hand pulls away. Now, your brain, when you touch a hot stove, it's not actually pain you're feeling, okay? There's actually sensors in your fingertips, well, throughout your entire body, that respond reflexively to temperature, chemical, and pressure, all right? So if you touch a hot stove, there's a little nerve that goes straight to your spinal cord. Your spinal cord goes bing, and it reflexes and pulls away, way faster than I can even say that, all right? But what happens is your brain goes, that caused damage. What happened? I touched something that was red. It was hot. I didn't know it was hot. It just was something that, you know, I shouldn't touch. Maybe I shouldn't touch that. So your brain starts to put in this perceived idea of creating some sort of safety, which is a good thing, right? Because then you're not likely going to go touch that hot stove again. You learn, your brain processes it, and now, even if you go near a stove, your nervous system goes, oh, I know we got hurt here before, we're going to be careful. And that's a good thing. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, unfortunately, what tends to happen with the nervous system, with persistent pain, is that it's like going near a stove and you just keep getting burnt and you keep getting burnt. And your nervous system is like, hang on here. We're not going to go near a stove, all right? So every time you see a stove, you start getting a little anxious. And you're like, I know I can't go near that, right? And your nervous system goes, yes, we kept them away from the stove. Let's make this more important. And you might be walking through IKEA and you see the area where the stoves, not even plugged in, but there's stoves for sale. And your nervous system kicks in that sensation of stress, not stress, but that I need to protect you. So if you happen to walk near it, the nervous system might send you an uncomfortable feeling. And that gets your attention. You're like, oh yeah, I'm not walking near those stoves, right? So now what's happened is your nervous system has gone into overprotection mode, where you could look at something and all of a sudden there's a physical sensation in your body. And if you have back pain or shoulder pain or neck pain, I bet you that if you were to go and watch someone do different types of movement, that you're like, oh man, that hurts. And it doesn't actually create a tissue damage in your body by watching someone lift something heavy or twist or move in a certain way, but your nervous system is so protective of you that now you look at someone, you're like, oh man, that hurts. You didn't even do it. All right? So that's kind of the basic idea behind what happens with persistent pain and why it becomes persistent. Now, here's the deal, is that it might not be a physical thing that actually hurt you in the first place, but it might have been just your nervous system trying to slow you down. We live in a world where there's lots to do. We feel like we need to do a lot. We feel like we need to work hard, to be busy all the time. That has the same effect on the nervous system. Okay? The nervous system is trying to get you to slow down. But what happened when your pain just kind of started, especially if it's like a pain that you didn't have a trauma with, but it just kind of, maybe you woke up one morning with it. There was no specific incident of damage, that it just gradually got worse and worse and worse, right? So it could have been a past injury. It could have just started happening where all of a sudden your nervous system is like, oh, we need to get them to slow down. And so they give you this niggle. Well, what happens? We push through it. We're like, no, we'll be fine. I'm not going to listen to it. I can still do what I need to do. And you push through it. And what does your nervous system do? Your nervous system goes, oh, they're not listening. I know they're not listening. Let's amp up the signal. So it makes the signal stronger. All right? There could be zero tissue damage happening in your spine, in your shoulder, in your neck. There might be something, and I'll get to that in a second. But there could be zero tissue damage. And you are in so much pain that you can barely make it through your day. Or close your car door, or put on your shoes, or move slightly off that perpendicular sensation. All right? Now, the crazy thing is when my back pain started, I was actually teaching yoga for backs. Like I was literally teaching people how to control and manage and help their back pain, but I myself couldn't because I was looking at it from a completely structural tissue damage lens. So what we need to do now is flip that, okay? Because your nervous system has become hyperprotective. You've become hypervigilant about different things. All these things lead up to creating what Explain Pain calls a danger in me, whether it's a thought, okay, whether it's an environment, whether it's something you smell, something you see, something you touch. It could be a person in your life. It could be a situation in your life. These are the little danger in me things that get started, and they add up, and we end up with pain. Now, I want to bring you back to the email that I sent out, or the picture that's attached to this kind of idea. And it had pain with the vertebra, and the vertebra started looking broken. When you looked at that picture, were you like, oh man, that's like, oh, that would hurt? And you start feeling it, okay? So that's kind of an indication that that thought process can create sensations. The other flip side of this, okay, is that if you were to take 100 people off the street that had no pain, they're called asymptomatic, they had no pain, and you gave them an MRI, because I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, I had imaging done. I have degenerative disc. I have osteoarthritis. I have different this, and this, okay? There's lots of things that can go on in your spine. Bulging discs, herniated discs. So if you were to take those 100 people off the street and MRI them, and they have no pain, the further you go up in age, I don't want you to attach this to age or anything, but when you get into about your 40s, closer to your 50s, 70 to 80% of those asymptomatic people will show things on the MRI, whether it's degenerative disc disease, whether it's a herniated disc, a bulging disc, arthritis, all of those different things. But they're asymptomatic. So how's that possible, right? The structures in our body don't need to cause pain, okay? Let that sink in for a second, because it's really hard to figure that one out, that if there's an actual tissue structure that's not normal, it should cause pain, but it doesn't, okay? There's all of those thought processes and those habits, and you're like, oh, what, but I sit wrong. We can slouch 15 minutes a day. It's not a horrible thing. And when you get into the 5 days of changing your back pain, or you work with me in any way, one of the things that I do emphasize is movement, all right? Not going to the gym and exercising and doing a specific program necessarily, but finding movement that you enjoy, that you can add into your day in small increments. I call them movement snacks. There's a lot more I could go into, like kinesiophobia. There's a quiz on my website if you want to go and see how kinesiophobic you are, which means you fear movement due to pain, right? If you can look at someone, see them move, and your back hurts because you see them move, there's a good chance that kinesiophobia is pretty high, all right? So you can head to the website, check out that quiz. But there's so much I could talk about. Now, I do want you to go away with a couple of things, all right? One of those things is a breathing that we're going to do in a minute. But the other thing is reading a couple books. Now, there's a lot of books out there on back pain, and you could just go to the secondhand bookstore and see if you can find any of these books, or even go to the library. The library is where I usually take out the book, and if I love reading it, I pick it up and buy it. Which I know you're like, but you already read it. That's me. I'm continuously learning. Apart from learning from Explain Pain, I went and did my pain mentorship with a physiotherapist in the UK. I did my pain reprocessing therapy certification with the Alan Gordon down in California. I'm going to show you his book in a second because it's the first one that I would recommend because it's an easy read and it gives you actionable tools to work through this. Okay, so right to the basis. With Explain Pain, I also got this book called The Body Keeps the Score. Okay, it's all about what I talked about, how your brain, your nervous system is trying to protect you. All right. And then, of course, if you've done anything with chronic pain, you've probably heard of Gabor Mate. He has a lot of books out. This one here, When the Body Says No. Again, same thing. You're going to read it. And I'll be honest, these two books, when you're reading them, it's like, oh, I'm never getting out of this. Like, it's just, that's totally what happened type thing, right? However, if you can, go get this book, okay? It's called The Way Out by Alan Gordon and Alon Zeev. It talks almost, when I read it, I was like, this is what I've been teaching. It's so easy to incorporate these exercises, these processes and tools into what I'm already doing, all right? Now, with this, it is a lot of mental work, okay? A lot of being aware of what's going on, connecting to your breath. I blend in movement with that. So we look at the big, serious picture of it. Now, before you go, I do want to do a breathing exercise with you because it's the basis of what I do in terms of work. And I want you to sit, lay down, do whatever you need to do. And what you're going to do is close your eyes and just take a breath. Now, as you take that breath, I want you to feel as you exhale and take a few more breaths. But each time you exhale, you can feel how your body softens into the ground. Whether it's just your feet, whether it's your shoulders, whether it's your legs, but your body softens with your exhale. And what I want you to do from this place of momentary stillness is to scan your body. And you're going to notice the spots that aren't comfortable. The first thing your brain wants to do is push them away, to get rid of them. That actually triggers your nervous system to be more protective. So what I want you to do just for the next 3 or 4 breaths is notice that sensation without trying to get rid of it, without trying to change it. And just try and notice it without any judgment. That it's just there. Now, just take a couple of words to describe it. Is it achy? Is it burning? Is it pinching? Anything that you can think of. Without saying pain, just give it some sort of description. And just let it be. Just be like, yeah, there it is. Taking another breath, feeling that stillness, and then opening your eyes. Excellent. Now that was super brief, but that's our starting point. You can be laying down, you can be sitting, you can be standing, you can be doing anything, even walking. Once you learn the basics of what we do with the breath, with the awareness, we move on from there. Okay? We build this into activities that you love to do. We build this into situations that cause you that anxiety. We build this into anything. But it's the first step. So if there's anything you take away from this 20 minutes that we need to finish off with now, is that you can stop, take a breath, just feel your body move into stillness for a brief second, and notice the sensation without judgment. It's not easy to do. It takes practice. And one of the things I talk about are the 3 Ps: practice, having patience, and paying attention. So please, if any of this resonated with you, email me, ask me questions. We also have the 5-day challenge starting on Monday. You'll get a 20-minute video each morning. There'll be 2 live Zoom calls where you can come in and ask me questions. All the information is on the website. If you live in Calgary, I will be teaching classes. All right? I'll be teaching on Tuesdays at 9:30 at North Glenmore Park Community Association in the Southwest, and on Tuesdays at noon at Wildflower Yoga. Okay? But, like I said, check the website. All the info is there. And I also have a workshop coming up. If you only have a Sunday available, there's a workshop. It's 2 parts at Yoga Santosha in Mission. It's a Sunday, January 21st. And then we're meeting up again 5 weeks later to go over what you've been practicing so that we can instill better habits. All right. I could keep going on, I swear, for a long time, but I'm going to let you go. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Do one more time today. Take that moment, even if it's 30 seconds, to feel soft, feel that stillness, notice the sensation without judgment. Okay? I look forward to hearing from you.